Welcome to the sport of helicopter dogfighting. The first rule of dogfighting is fly fast and always be moving. The spin move is the number one move for both defense and offense. By always turning, we confuse the opponent as to our exact position. You must be graceful while flying. This means being comfortable while dancing around the opponent. It is like two birds flying around each other in intricate patterns. There are times in the aerial dogfight where aggressive flying is called for. There are times when graceful and subtle flying is necessary. Only the current battle can determine which will be used first. Observe your opponent closely as they run away to get energies. Did you notice that my opponent skipped as he was about to reach the energy? Always be on the lookout for when an opponent has skipped multiple times in the dogfight. Always seek the highest position. That is the main goal of all dogfighting. The moment of victory. I have flown over my opponent and taken their tail. Without their tail, they are hopeless, unless they know how to fly without a tail. You can learn to fly without a tail easily, by making it a part of your training routine. You must confuse your opponent. Sometimes flying on their left, and sometimes on their right. Smashing your opponent's blades with the bottom of your helicopter is very effective, because blades can only take so much damage before breaking. Shooting your opponent and not getting shot is the key to victory. This means you must know how to shoot while flying at all angles. My opponent is now in trouble. His engines are now on fire and his helicopter will explode if he doesn't get an energy quickly. That is why I will get the energy before him. In this way it is a war of attrition. You take the resource away from the opponent before they can recover. Rule number 2 is to always protect yourself and be ready for the next battle. There will be times when 5 or more helicopters are attacking you at the same time. Each pilot that approaches you has a different style that you must take into account in real time. If your opponent insists on flying directly at you after takeoff, that is good. You have the high ground and they are going to pay for their mistake. The high ground gives a pilot more options and advantages, such as more space to fly and faster speed potential and better defense. Observe the turning motion that I make as I fly from the ground to the sky. I am not traveling in straight lines. I am now fighting 2 opponents at once. I must confuse my opponents and make each one think that they are about to be attacked first. As I look back, do you notice that my opponent skips? Notice how my helicopter does not skip. If you observe your opponent skipping often, your tactics must take that reality into account. The moment of victory. I have confused my opponent with left side and right side attacks. They were not expecting my move and now they have paid for it. At all times, you must protect yourself. At any moment a new opponent might be attacking you. It is very important for a pilot to be on guard at all times. It is vital to always be aware of everything in the area. That is why the radar on the bottom left of the screen is important, but also, so is listening closely for helicopter engines approaching. I face my opponent on my terms. I have chosen the place of battle. I am ready and they are not. Knowing the exact moment of battle is very important for many reasons. Timing, rhythm, the tempo of battle should be of your choosing, not your opponent. My opponent is trying to gain altitude without turning. That is a fast way to lose his tail. The more dimensions you utilize as a pilot, the better. As you fly, make sure that you are turning more than going straight, because straight lines are too easy to predict. We pay attention to every part of battle to observe the patterns of our opponent. Observe closely as my opponent skips across the screen, and their walking animation doesn't activate. Firstly, realize that each player has a PS3, and that means that their computer speeds are equal. No skipping should occur naturally. Observe how I tilt my blades to the right as I pass my opponent. Also notice that I kept my tail out of the way while I tilted my blades. When going on the offensive, we must still use defensive tactics. Always approach your opponent carefully, especially when past skipping has been observed. I know my opponent is hurt. He would love to get an energy right now. That is why I get it first. An opportunist approaches. Observe how I hide my tail by tilting it downward as he passes. My opponent tries getting an energy by a cement column. As I come back around, you will see that he failed, and that he is now on the ground. My opponent needed energy from that collision that he sustained before. Therefore, if he hits a cement column, he will not likely fly away from it. Always park your helicopter far away from the opponent, who might have grenades or another weapon. The first blast is from a grenade that my opponent threw onto the roof from below.
Hey, how's it going? Hey.
When your opponent tries flying into you, aim your rockets at their blades. Epic. Epic. Excellent. That was absolutely epic. My opponent has been taken down. If your opponent refuses to get out of the helicopter, that is okay. It is a good time to get more ammunition.
Hey, how's it going?
Of course, taunting your opponent is always helpful too.
Hey, how's it going?
This is just like a boxing match or a football game. Each side can either be professional or emotional. If you can make your opponent emotional by taunting them, that is good. Observe how I don't run to get the ammunition right away. Instead, I take my time and confuse my opponent as to when I will or won't do something. Confusing your opponent is the #1 tactic in every competitive sport. Utilize it. My opponent has finally gotten out of the helicopter. It is time to fire the rocket. This has been an educational video to teach you how to fly in GTA 4, which is owned by Rockstar Games. Our educational commentary qualifies this video to be protected by the Fair Use Law.